I'm Veronica Dudo. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, free at last. A dark night is over as hostages return home. We'll show you all the emotional reunions. Then,
this is the historic dawn of a new Middle East.
From Israel to Egypt, President Trump and more than 20 world leaders tried to figure out the future of Gaza, plus celebrating our mother.
I believe that she is the shortest way to get to Jesus because it's a mom and she knows him the best.
We'll take you to Rome to see the Jubilee of Marian spirituality. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Edward the Confessor. Our top story tonight, after 2 years, the war in the Middle East comes to a halt. President Donald Trump celebrates the release of all 20 living hostages from Gaza and seeks to extend peace beyond the Holy Land. The president spoke today in Israel before traveling to Egypt to meet with other world leaders about the path forward. Video captures the moment an Israeli hostage is reunited with his mother. The scenes of joy extend across Israel. And in Israel's Hostages Square, this chant. Images show President Donald Trump meeting with the hostages' families in Israel. He was welcomed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the airport in Tel Aviv before the two leaders addressed the Israeli Knesset.
You are committed to this peace. I am committed to this peace. And together, Mr. President, we will achieve this peace.
After so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace.
President Trump says this could be the start of the golden age for Israel and the Middle East.
Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change, and change very much for the better.
Trump also made news when he encouraged the Israeli president to pardon Netanyahu to free him from corruption charges.
That was not in the speech, as you probably know.
Netanyahu thanked Trump during his departure from Israel. Air Force One then shuttled President Trump to Egypt so he could participate in a global summit on Gaza's future.
You look at Gaza, it needs a lot of cleanup.
The Middle East peace ceremony in Egypt attracted leaders from more than 24 countries.
This is an incredible day for the world, let alone the Middle East.
President Trump then took part in a signing ceremony marking the first phase of the ceasefire agreement.
This took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too.
And with a banner that reads "Peace in the Middle East" behind them, the global leaders took turns addressing the push for peace.
Today is one of the greatest days in contemporary history because peace has been achieved.
Joining us now is Gaith Al-Omari, Senior Fellow at the Washington Institute. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Veronica.
So a truly historic day for the Trump administration, the Middle East, and the world. Why was President Trump able to achieve this milestone while President Biden failed?
I think part of it is the very strong relations that President Trump has with Israel, the trust that the Israeli public has in President Trump. I mean, if you look at the polling, if he were to run for president in Israel today, he would win. Israelis love him. That gave them a degree of comfort and trust in his skills. But also the Arab countries trust him. Maybe they don't see eye to eye on everything, but they know that he's willing to use power. And from the regional perspective, that's what really matters.
Now, following so much death and destruction, of course, the idea is for hope and peace to prevail. What's in place for the deal to hold?
I'm quite optimistic on the first phase holding. I think once that the hostages are out, the Israelis have no real reason to go back in. And I do believe that the people of Gaza are very tired and Hamas has been very weakened. Now, if you look forward, though, it becomes more complicated because we need, for example, an international force to come and take over Gaza as Hamas disarms and leaves. Well, we don't have great volunteers for that job. Hamas itself has to agree to disarm. As of yet today, if you saw, they deployed armed forces in Gaza, got involved in very, very atrocious violations against Palestinians. So Hamas has to be pushed to leave. We talk about this board for peace. Well, it's not clear who's going to be there. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But the main thing right now we see is momentum. You saw how many people gathered in Egypt for the meeting. You saw the reception the president got in Israel at the Knesset. So I think we have momentum. The question is how do you use the momentum to kind of fine-tune all of these big issues?
Now, President Trump's first foreign trip of his second term was to the Middle East. Is the United States helping to reshape the region, and what's in store?
So now I think the U.S. is shaping the region in two particular ways. One is building partnerships with these states, what I call the new Arab world. But two, and this will take maybe some time because of the Gaza war, but integrating Israel into the region. Ultimately, Israel is like-minded when it comes to some of those countries. Makes no sense to be for it to be ostracized. And I think the president is serious about wanting to see this happen.
Gaith Al-Amari, Senior Fellow at the Washington Institute, thank you so much.
Thank you.
While it's a new day for the released hostages and their families, it is also the beginning of a long road ahead for recovery. Life after captivity will be challenging and permanently changed. These men have endured 2 years of torture, horrifying living conditions, and darkness. They will need help physically and mentally from doctors, family, and friends. For more, we are joined by Dr. Suzanne N. Holman. She is the Director of Student Mental Health at Catholic University of America. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Veronica. Thank you for having me.
So first, let's begin with what are some of the challenges the hostages will face after being freed?
So it's interesting. The transition from captivity to freedom will first involve hormonal changes in the body. There will be spikes in adrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, and initially these hostages may appear very happy and strong. But however, when these hormone levels drop back to normal, that is when they may start encountering the expected feelings of emptiness and sadness, and perhaps even post-traumatic depression. And in order to deal with that, they will have to really adjust psychologically, biologically, and also spiritually.
Could you explain a little bit further about some of those healing processes?
And so, you know, we think of the body and the mind and the spirit as a holistic whole in the Catholic faith, but also in psychology. And this is one instance in which psychology, philosophy, and theology comes together. In 2018, the American Psychological Association talked about how those that can find meaning in their trauma experience less long-term distress. And, you know, Pope Francis also stated that suffering becomes an occasion for a transformative encounter with God. And I would argue that those transformative encounters need to be biological and psychological and spiritual in order to deal with the potential for post-traumatic stress disorder and symptoms. There will be intrusions, flashbacks, nightmares, intrusive thoughts, avoiding reminders or places or people or movies, or social media connected to the trauma that they experienced. As we know, everything's been documented widely. Negative changes in mood and cognition, and maybe feeling a little detached from people who did not go through that, leading to a potential for survivor guilt. The existential question of why me, which is very central to coping with these unprecedented and horrific experiences that people have undergone.
Now, Free, how can former hostages reintegrate into society?
That's a really great question. Some of these things are quite simple. Establishing routines, leaning upon their faith, experiencing support from other people close to them, and normalizing how they feel. Probably one of the most important aspects is time. And post-traumatic growth is the goal. It is different from mere resilience. While resilience involves just bouncing back to your previous level of functioning, post-traumatic growth is what's required here. It goes way beyond that. It has to represent a profound shift in perspective and understanding, and finding new opportunities, embracing new opportunities, building stronger relationships, perhaps even stronger than relationships were before the trauma, and cultivating that inner strength in order to overcome hardship.
Dr. Suzanne Holman, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
President Trump warned he would be forced to fire thousands of federal workers if the government shutdown continued. Now, the Office of Management and Budget, headed by Russ Vought, announced the first round of layoffs is taking place across a variety of federal agencies. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us with more, plus congressional reaction. Eric.
Well, good evening, Veronica, from a very quiet Congress and Capitol Hill as lawmakers are back at home enjoying the holiday. But I tell you what, it's not a holiday for the more than 4,000 federal employees who received layoff notices late last week as part of the Trump administration's broad effort to reshape the government while it remains shut down. You may recall that the government ran out of money back on October 1st, and both sides have been at odds. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson continues to say Democrats are to blame for not passing a clean CR to fund the government.
The Office of Management and Budget has to determine what are the most efficient and effective programs. It's a difficult task. It's not one that they relish. They don't want to do it. Listen to the president's own words and Russ Vought's own words and everybody who's involved. They want the government to be opened. They're begging Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. That's how to make all this stop.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer fired back, saying the Trump administration is to blame. Schumer wrote on X, quote, "Let's be blunt. Nobody's forcing Trump and Vought to do this. They don't have to do it. They want to do it. This is deliberate chaos." According to OMB, about 4,200 workers across 7 federal agencies are affected. They include more than 1,400 from the Treasury, including the IRS. More than 400 from education, leaving only 20% of the workforce. Some 1,200 from Health and Human Services, including the CDC, along with cuts to HUD, DHS, EPA, and energy.
That's what a shutdown does. You put the administration and this presidency in a position where they're going to have to make some hard decisions.
Not all Republicans are towing the line. Senator Susan Collins said in a statement, quote, "I strongly oppose OMB Director Russ Vought's attempt to permanently lay off federal workers. Arbitrary layoffs result in a lack of sufficient personnel needed to conduct the mission of the agency and to deliver essential programs. Democrats are sounding off."
He again is trying to politicize the federal government in a way, and he's picking winners and losers. These are people with families, and they have mortgages, and they have to pay rent, they have to put food on the table. We've never seen a president do anything like this before.
And by the way, this is far from over. The administration says even more layoffs are coming. Now, the nation's largest union representing federal workers is suing the Trump administration, asking a judge to block any mass firings during the shutdown. They argue that the administration only has the authority to furlough workers, not to permanently eliminate positions. And what about the U.S. military? Well, over the weekend, President Donald Trump is directing defense officials to pay members of the military next week, despite the ongoing federal shutdown, but it's unclear on how long that will last. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
An update tonight in the case against former Jesuit and artist Father Marco Rupnik. The 70-year-old has been accused of sexual and psychological abuse by more than 24 adult consecrated women. Today, the Dicastery of the Doctrine of the Faith said the Vatican appointed 5 judges to oversee the case. They will examine the allegations made over the course of 30 years. Rupnik was dismissed from the Jesuits in 2023. A reparation rite was held at St. Peter's today after a shocking incident of desecration. On Friday, a man approached the high altar of the basilica, unbuttoned his pants, and urinated or attempted to urinate on the altar. The man was then grabbed by police and escorted from the basilica. Around noon today, a penitential rite was held at the altar. We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly. Our Lady Queen of Peace will show you the Jubilee of Marian, spirituality in Rome, and the one thing Pope Leo says each of us can do to bring peace to the world. And the White House celebrates a special milestone today. Can you guess what it is? During the Mass for the Jubilee of Marian spirituality, Pope Leo XIV said the Blessed Mother is a beautiful example of how to turn to and follow her Son, Jesus Christ. EWTN Vatican journalist Zosha Chubek has more.
Mary, the Queen of Peace, was at the centre of the Jubilee of Marian spirituality. On the first evening, Pope Leo led the faithful in praying the Holy Rosary and adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, in the presence of the original statue of Our Lady of Fatima, which had been brought to Rome from Portugal for the Jubilee. He invited the faithful to persevere tirelessly in praying for peace, a God-given gift, and made a passionate appeal for disarmament by reminding them of Jesus' words in the Garden of Gethsemane, "Lay down your sword."
Metti via la spada.
Lay down your sword is a message addressed to the powerful of this world, to those who guide the fate of peoples. Have the courage to disarm. At the same time, it is an invitation to each one of us to recognize that no idea, faith, or policy justifies killing. We must first disarm our hearts, because unless we have peace within ourselves, we cannot give it to others.
Non daremo pace.
The major Jubilee event gathered around 30,000 pilgrims, including rectors and volunteers from Marian shrines and members of Marian movements, confraternities and prayer groups. For many, the weekend of prayer and community was an opportunity to manifest their love and devotion to the Mother of God.
I'm very close to her. I try to pray the rosary every day. I believe that she is the shortest way to get to Jesus because it's a mom and she knows him the best. So I believe that's...
I think Mary is love because Holy Mary is the mother of all.
Mary is my mom, and through her I found Jesus. And these two columns, Maria and Jesus in Eucharist, are the most important columns of our life.
At the closing Mass, Pope Leo spoke to the pilgrims about how Mary's journey always leads closer to Jesus and to those in need. He explained that Marian devotion not only serves the gospel and helps the faithful live it more fully, but reveals God's humility and tenderness in the life of the Church.
Il cammino di Maria è dietro a Gesù.
Mary's path follows that of Jesus, which leads us to encounter every human being, especially the poor, the wounded, and sinners. Because of this, authentic Marian spirituality brings God's tenderness, His way of being a mother, to light in the Church.
La tenerezza di Dio.
After his homily, Pope Leo stood before the original statue of Our Lady of Fatima and dedicated the Church and the world to the Blessed Virgin Mary. Praying especially for those suffering from war and violence, the Pope said that devotion to Mary leads Christians to concrete action and social renewal. Pilgrims now return home strengthened in their Marian devotion and hopeful that others too will grow in the same love for Mary.
I hope that everyone can come to her and say, Mother, my mother, and recognize her as a mother.
In Rome, Zofia Tubak for EWTN News Nightly.
A powerful nor'easter continues up the East Coast, causing coastal flooding from South Carolina all the way to New York. High winds and heavy rain have caused power outages for thousands in the tri-state region. Both New Jersey and New York City have declared a state of emergency. Meanwhile, thousands of flights in and out of New York and Boston airports are delayed. Coastal flood warnings remain in effect for some areas until Tuesday. Today marks two major milestones in U.S. history. The first celebrates the 250th birthday of the U.S. Navy. The military branch was originally formed as the Continental Navy to fight against British rule during the American Revolution. It started in 1775 with only 2 ships and 80 men. Now the Navy boasts more than 280 ships and 340,000 active duty personnel. And just 233 23 years ago today, the White House cornerstone was set in place. It marked the start of construction for the home of future U.S. presidents. The famous residence earned its name through the white gray Virginia freestone used to build it. John Adams was the first president to live in the White House. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, Woke Culture. A new book explores the rise and arguing it's time to push back. That story right after the break. Welcome back. Woke is a term we hear a lot these days, but what does it really mean and why does it stir up so much debate across the country? To help break it all down, I spoke with Simon Hankinson, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation and author of the book, The 10 Woke Commandments You Must Not Obey. Simon, great to be with you.
Thanks for having me.
What inspired the idea to liken so much of the woke agenda to something religious like the 10 Commandments?
Well, as I was thinking about all of these issues like gender ideology, like critical race theory, that were percolating up, especially in the COVID era when things got really crazy, it occurred to me that the way they were phrased was not so much as these are ideas that we can debate and discuss and talk about and maybe evolve about, but it was we must agree to these things. You shall believe this. You must believe America's a racist, cis, hetero, patriarchal nightmare society, that your history is rotten. If we decide on a Monday that men can be women and vice versa, you must believe that. And they seemed like commandments as opposed to thoughts and ideas that could be debated. And so that's the way that it occurred to me to frame it.
Now, for some people who aren't familiar with your book, what are some of the woke 10 commandments, and how do you advise people to push back?
Well, probably the most controversial are you will not know what a woman is, and you will not know what a man is. Things that we instinctively know and have known for thousands of years, all of a sudden are thrown into question. And how to push back is just to accept that while there's a huge amount of variation in how men behave and dress and act, and women behave and act and dress, they are still men and they are still women. Humans are a sexually dimorphous species like other mammals, and that's just a fact, and we have to work around that fact. Another one is you will trust in institutions, and another one is you will trust the media. Those of us of my generation grew up generally believing that the media was going to tell us the objective truth most of the time, unless it was an editorial. That's just no longer the case, unfortunately. The bias has just gotten so bad in most of the legacy media that we need to be more cautious, and we need to have a wider range of sources.
Now, of course, we're in the first year of the new administration under President Donald Trump. Where do you see the woke movement going? Is it gaining strength or losing it?
Well, I think they're on the back foot. They're playing defense for the first time in 5 years. Under the Biden administration, if you looked at the political appointees at the Department of Justice, at the Pentagon, at the State Department, the people wielding the levers of power were the ones who believed in open borders, gender ideology, critical race theory, all of the pinnacles of the woke movement. Now, the Trump administration has retaken those commanding heights, but the woke sort of mindset still really captures academia. Harvard, for example, had 3% of faculty are out conservatives, 3%, that's it. And that's pretty typical of elite institutions. The media, sure, there are new emerging sources on the right and in the center and independent media, but the legacy institutions are still very much of the left. So there's an awful lot of work to do, but at the top anyway, the direction has changed.
And finally, if viewers would like a copy of your book, where can they go?
It's available at all fine booksellers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and I encourage people to go out there and get it and judge for themselves.
Simon Hankinson, author of The 10 Woke Commandments You Must Not Obey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Veronica Dudo. We leave you tonight with images of the joyful reunions of the Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners with their families. News.